Okay, good evening, everyone. So I'm Sam from Real Estate Analytics, REA. So I'm very glad to be here today to talk about how we use ClickHouse in our company, REA. So thank you very much, Rana and Cheryl, for inviting. So I was actually here last July, well, probably about more than half a year ago, coming with a problem in our company and for a solution. So our dear product manager decided to introduce a new feature. So that's called slicing and dicing the database, because our product manager couldn't quite decide what column are important. So product manager decided to leave it to the customer because they are not expert. So customer is expert. So rather than selecting a bunch of columns which are important for the customer to explore the database, we put in about actually more than 200 columns. And in terms of width, in terms of length, we have about 3 to 20 million rows of data. So that 3 to 20 million data actually doesn't sound too crazy, but adding these two together is probably a bit scary but manageable. So we were using MongoDB, and we managed to kind of tune it pretty nicely, acceptable for production. But so our PM's job is kind of, well, resolved. Everybody's happy, but probably my nightmare started to form shape. And until my PM said, well, you know what, out of the 200 columns, we want to change some of them. And we need it pretty regularly. So that becomes a problem. So we take about, with all the indices and the tuning, fine tuning, we take about 30 minutes to do a full table refresh. And well, clearly that's not very acceptable. So, and we need to do that like more frequently than I wish to be. So that's when we kind of started using ClickHouse. In fact, quite soon after last July, when I first learned about ClickHouse, we started using it. And until today, well, it helped us to save quite a number of headaches. And to our present surprise, we actually discovered more than what we needed. So today I'm going to kind of show you a bit about our company and how we use ClickHouse. So just two topics on how what we use in our company: slicing and dicing, the nightmare that my PM threw to me. So I'm the data lead in our company, so I'm responsible for the infrastructure, database, and the data engineering team. So, and second would be the extraction and parsing. That's the bonus that we kind of realize later on after the fact, after we solve our headache. Okay, so a bit of our company. It was founded in 2019 by these three people over there. And then we are actually HQ in Singapore. We are active in several other countries, including Australia, Malaysia, and Hong Kong. And we do have some B2C product and B2B product. But, well, especially in Singapore, it's not a pure B2C product. So unless you are a real estate agent in Singapore, you can get our freemium product that's available on App Store. That's called RealAgent. Otherwise, probably you still need to consult your property agent for any property-related data. Okay, so that's real estate analytics, and we ingest a lot of information. That's why we actually come into this problem that our PM couldn't quite decide what is important for the customer and decided to outsource that problem to our customer. So we give you all the columns that you need, that you possibly would have, and well, you decide for yourself. And then, back then we were using MongoDB, and we tested the aggregation was actually, in fact, 10 times faster. It was no joke, 10 times faster. But the most surprising part is actually the table refresh. That's close to 50 times faster. Because after all the fine-tuning for MongoDB, that we kind of brought it up to speed and to production level, it became a bit not reasonable for the refresh. And that's when we found ClickHouse to be performant enough for us to still proceed with this wish list of our PM. So, so that's 10 times to 50 times faster for different purpose, of course. And well, we did reach out to MongoDB and they taught us something. Well, they actually helped us to fine-tune the table. Well, they call it collection. So, well, we learned that in MongoDB, each index that you add actually adds about 10% of the refresh time of the original table. So if, well, imagine we have 200 columns and we have about 20 indices. So that brought us up to about 30 minutes of each refresh. And imagine if our PM is a little bit too creative, we have a lot of 30 minutes to spend. So that is probably what brought us into ClickHouse, and we are happy that ClickHouse actually helped us to resolve this problem. But the most important part is actually, well, ClickHouse is quite easy to use, quite easy to set up. And I think ClickHouse is really generous enough to have an open source, in an open source community form, which is very, very similar to the production in the cloud. And well, there are a bunch of content out there that share how to use ClickHouse and how to be very expert in ClickHouse. So I'm very happy for that, and that's why I kind of would like to kind of share a bit of what we do in our company. I would actually want to point you guys to what we do for extraction and parsing. So this is our extraction engine in the company. So we use Airflow, and then we send instruction through Kafka to a bunch of containers in AWS. We use ECS, and we do two things. Very simple. So extraction on the left from the source into bucket. So that is kind of our bronze level. And the MongoDB is kind of front UI facing. So back end, we actually use MongoDB. We actually use Postgres and Redshift. So we realized we can actually do this part and kind of replace it with ClickHouse. So we do not have the Kafka anymore. So from the distributed engine, we actually put it as centralized. Not that it's one place, but ClickHouse also does its distribution. So we do the same thing from the source, open internet, to S3 bucket, and then S3 bucket into DB. So extraction, parsing. So quite a simple parsing engine here, but it is made possible with a lot of connectors, and in today's session I will actually share a bit about how we extract from the internet. Of course, today I'm not going to show you our own database. I'm going to show you how to grab data and some of the common sources that we get in Singapore. So if you realize, we can actually use ClickHouse as the DB, because ClickHouse itself is a DB. Why not we use ClickHouse as the DB here, which I'll leave this question later for me to answer. We still have a bit of unresolved or pending issues that we kind of still need other DB for now. But ClickHouse definitely fit into the, well, replace totally for the Kafka and the consumers containers that we were actually using. So that saves us quite a number of time, resource. So both in terms of money and in terms of the development resource. Because ClickHouse is SQL based, like what Maroti mentioned. So
many more developers in our company could actually develop using ClickHouse. So some of the features that we really like about ClickHouse is the globe function in the extraction and parsing feature that we are using. So you can have a number of range, so like 1.10. So that is a range from 1 to 10 if you want to pass 10 files or 10 websites. So later on I'll be showing you like how we use URL engine, which is quite a good thing in our opinion. And of course, the dot and dot signifies the wildcard for files and also folders. And surprisingly, ClickHouse, well, to our surprise, ClickHouse can actually read zip files without extracting them. So that's a very good feature that we discovered, because we store a lot of zip files in our bronze layer, which, well, if we were to extract it, it's possible, but it's just going to cost us money. So if we want to keep the zip and the extracted version, so that's kind of two costs. But with this, with ClickHouse, you can just directly read it from the zip file, which is not too, well, there is drop in terms of speed, but it's kind of acceptable to us in most of the contexts. And another feature that we quite like is the insert into S3 function. Well, you can save file directly into S3, and the partition by, well, can separate it into different files if you need to name them. It's very handy. And last but not least, the parsing function like JSON. So the first one is actually regex based, and then JSON support is quite well established in ClickHouse, I would say. So I will do a little bit of demo, and probably that's the end of my presentation. So not going to take up too much time. So I prepared 3 demos. So before I start, I would like to probably I wouldn't do all. Is there anybody from the space of property? Well, I'll do the first one for sure because it's kind of really open. So probably a raise of hand, like, is there anyone from the property industry, like be it we have somebody there, we have somebody here. So maybe I'll do the property website. By any chance, anybody is from 99.co? Okay, that's good. Extract the website. Okay, I hope you guys can see it. So let's start simple from data.gov. That's our government. So it wouldn't be too upset with it. So with this data.gov URL, this is the catalog, and then we can actually pass it. So this is the URL engine, and we can pass it into JSON file. We can read JSON, and then we can also query in terms of we can use JSON to query. So let's change to this one, and it breaks because let me take up this. So we can take the data key and the collection key and get all the array inside, and that's when we get the useful information. But that's not the magic that we are performing here. The magic is actually this one. So if you scroll down, you actually see, you need to go back here to see. If you scroll down, you actually realize there are 137 pages. So for simplicity's sake, because we do regularly crawl the website, so we put a larger number so that we don't miss out any in the near future. So let's put the 200 pages, and we get the relevant information inside. And this query is probably going to take slightly more than 10 seconds. So it gives us 137 pages worth of data, and after 100, true enough, under 137, it stopped. So we return nothing. And we can actually transform it and save it into S3. So that's the insert into function that I talked about just now. So we can extract it and put it into our S3 bucket. So that's done. And then we can browse the S3 bucket. Isn't that pretty handy? Well, to us it is pretty handy. So you straight away have 127 pages of it, like that. So in pure SQL. So we like that a lot. Hope you guys find it helpful. And before we stop for data.gov, let's see. So we can of course do some aggregation. Well, let's see which government agency is working the hardest. So it seems like URA is working pretty hard. 273 catalog item. But if you drill down and see and look at it, it seems to be pretty redundant. You have a lot of master plans, meaning they have probably done a lot of amendment to it, but probably that's when we kind of say, well, that's hardworking, very helpful, but maybe we need to kind of do a bit of bell curve on their hard work. Well, nevertheless, this is pretty helpful. And then, second is the zip file that I talked about just now, right? So we can save the zip file directly. I'm not quite sure if this is still valid because data.gov implemented a new way of download. So I'm pretty sure that link is expired. Let me go into my Postman to get another one. Data.gov, not this workspace. Data.gov. And upload zip. So we actually need to generate another URL. Or otherwise it is directly executable. Data.gov probably realized a lot more people are using their website to download, so they added this feature to slow us down a little bit. Okay, so I'm pretty sure this one works. So this is a zip file of 27 CSV. So if you guys are familiar or not so familiar with Accra database, it is sorted by alphabet. So 26 alphabet plus others, so 27. And then now let's browse directly from zip file if you see. So you can actually use the double colon to specify the Accra zip file, and I want to read all the CSV inside. We find it very, very helpful. And straight away you get the Accra database in the table format. And of course, we shouldn't end there. So you can see there are in fact 27 files, 27 rows. If we aggregate it, so sorted by alphabet and what others. And of course you can do many more things here. So this is directly reading from the zip file without extracting. That's why it's a little bit slower. So we can see the audit firm of all the Singapore companies, be it inactive or active. EY is getting the highest market share in Singapore at least. So probably that should end the data.gov, and let us move to 99.co. So I hope nobody's from 99.co again, because we are going to read their website. So that is pretty fast for just page 1. So if we take this URL, visit the website. They are copying me for the image, but that's fine. I'm just going to read the text. So there should be 24 or 36 listings for sale, and if we see the first page, it's a property for $2 million. And again, the same thing, it wouldn't be fun without using the range, because we can read a lot more pages together. So it's just 10 pages in one shot. We have all the 10 pages sorted by descending order of recency, and we can actually insert that. So we save the HTML files into our S3 bucket. Also quite fast, because it's just 10 pages. And here comes the more interesting part, because we can parse the information in HTML using reject. And this is a feature that we like a lot. So straight away, you realize first page, if you look at the first page, that's a property going for 900,000. So hope we find the 900,000. That's probably not there. Probably I saved into a different bucket because while I was testing. So in short, you can read the HTML files. So I pull out the files here. So you see this is the number 1, the page 1 HTML, all the way to page 10 HTML. So we have 360 rows. So that's probably pretty useful for web scraper in the market, which is including us, because we take a lot of information from the open internet, and of course we have information from our data vendor and some of the non-open source government data that we subscribe to. So all these can be ingested very easily into ClickHouse using this, in this case, the URL engine, which acts as a browser to the internet for you guys. So maybe just a time check, Cheryl. Do I still have time for the... Okay, I got a thumbs up signal. So let's complete our medical one as well. So in this case, we look at the doctors from... So, Mount Elizabeth Medical Center. Anyone looking there? I hope doctors are not so interested in database at the moment, before probably some of their job gets stolen by AI for the consultation. So, if you see this page, there are 24 pages for the doctor's info, at least in this case, the name and their specialties. So we can do the same thing. We can read directly from there. and we get the HTML. But of course, the more interesting one would be to read it from page 1 to 24. Again, you get 24 pages very quickly. So I'm not sure if any one of you are doing this kind of scripting, but probably if you're using, well, be it Python or Node.js, Selenium, it's going to take slightly longer than this. But with this, you directly pass it into a table, which you can later, for this is a pass on the fly, which is really useful. And is, well, true enough, the database is actually quite small. The data size is actually quite small. It's probably about 500 doctors in Mount Elizabeth. Yeah, about 567. Yeah, they have 567 doctors, or I would say specialists in Mount E. And probably the last one, which will kind of bridge a little bit to what I want to talk about in the next slide, is this one. So before I insert it into a table, although this is the same thing, I guess. This is the medical center one. Let's skip that. That's a redundant thing. So there is one good feature about this URL engine. You can do your normal bread and butter API request, just like how you do it in Postman or any other client. So you can insert the header, and I briefly read it can also do post requests. It's probably slightly more complicated, and there are some restrictions on the server side, which maybe not all are compliant. So let us do the simple one, which is the GET request. So in these GET requests, we get back the landlord information, not the landlord as in the owner, but the land parcel of this address that I searched just now. So a little bit of property information in Singapore. This is in fact the oldest lease start date in Singapore. So if you see this date, this is back in the 1826. So, well, definitely way before I was born. And this is Malacca Center. So, well, before I stepped into the property industry, I, well, definitely wouldn't expect Singapore to have such a building still alive today. So, with this, I can also do the parsing. Because you can read JSON, right, just now, if we remember. So we get this date. But this date is quite normal, but it kind of bridged to one issue that I probably want ClickHouse team to probably pay a bit more attention to. So remember this date, just a year, not so much on the date actually. And let me go back to my slide. Last one. Not this one. Yeah, so to wrap up, right? We do still face some issue. I could have shown you how this issue come about, but probably I'll do it next time. So there's one restriction that, well, three restrictions that we still face today may be resolved in the near future, but may not be a big problem for most of the other people, I would say, because we deal with, well, I would say outdated data. So 1826 who the hell actually look at 1826, right? I think the ClickHouse team must have figured out who the hell did that, but we need that. So for that reason, just now I queried, right? So ClickHouse has a date format starting from 1970, and well, a little bit better, but not as good as what we wanted it to be, 1900, if you use the 64. So, well, another reason that we still have our other database is, well, first because of the date. Second, in the property business, we actually deal with a lot of geometry. So in case you guys don't actually know what is geometry, it is a bunch of dots and probably polygon that we put on the map that is very, very important to our business, because we need to know exactly where this property, this building, or this project is. And that's why to be honest, I'm actually quite happy with what ClickHouse has done to this level, because at least ClickHouse, compared to many other databases out there in the market, can do query of geometry. That's, well, sufficient enough for us to jump over. But it couldn't give the last bit of convenience to display into, well, dbeaver, which is one of the data client that we use, database client that we use. And another feature, not a showstopper, is the auto-generated sequence in Postgres, which we use a lot as well. So, in short, I still think ClickHouse helped us a lot. That's why I'm happy to come to this sharing session and spread the words. Hope one of you or many more people in probably the next meetup session could do the same. So that would be all for my sharing session today.